Abbas Kiarostami kept revisiting his film sets after a natural disaster hit them in order to rediscover the human footprint that these events buried under. Since man is part of nature, it seems like things just happen the way they do without any reason. History then is a pretense. It gets its meaning only after the fact, or as in Kiarostami's films, through reenactments, an artistic and therapeutic practice. Since art and fiction create meaning, they invite men to reevaluate what is important in the most desperate moments. By adopting certain values, things will happen to men the way they ought to, and when they do, nature begins to be seen as the background of the social world, rather than determining it, as Kiarostami demonstrates. In Béla Tarr's films, events repeat themselves, but in each time, they are taken from a different angle, as in the Turin horse. History repeats itself, nothing changes, only our point of view. And in Shatan Tango, events in the frame repeat themselves. Tarr implicitly argues in his films that history is lawful rather than purposeful, because human nature cannot change. Tarr is a disappointed idealist who resorts to nihilism. He uses the static long take in order to show that the progress of human history is an illusion. Bare life doesn't consist of meaning or possibility, but just of moments of suffering. Instead of crying for the loss of love or life, while at the same time trying to find new meaning or new possibilities, he cries for the loss of his ideals and dwells in the meaninglessness of love or life. Films can also repeat their narrative in order to try to show that any action we choose to take could lead to a different direction. Human agency has power over nature, but Krzysztof Kieślowski's films try to argue that when it does happen, it is by chance, by taking advantage of opportunities. In Blind Chance, he repeats the beginning of the film in order to give another chance for the characters to change the course of events, to change history. And in his film, The Double Life of Veronique, the seduction to meet with your double, the person you could have been, is a possibility in order to overcome neurosis and to become different. But in both cases, the way the characters understood reality and themselves afterwards stayed the same. The opportunities they got didn't lead them to a new life. This is because the political reality at the time in Eastern Europe was harsh and unjust. The only thing these characters can do is to keep having blind faith in religious and political movements, or hope and dream about a secret metaphysical world in which things might have been different. But in Hollywood films, human agency does change history, since exceptional and virtuous heroes make history by creating their own opportunities. They repeat their narrative in order to show that we can change the course of events in our lives, not by changing the narrative, but by changing our actions and ourselves in order to succeed. In order to get out of the loop of history, as in Groundhog Day, and our historical narrative, as in Edge of Tomorrow, the hero needs to go through a transformation. Everything is almost the same every day until it's not, because the protagonist changed his attitude, not the world or society, as in Groundhog Day. Or the protagonist finds a way to change the course of events, and as a result, they save the world, as in Edge of Tomorrow. Hollywood films are, obviously, individualistic and optimistic. On the other hand, films that embody creative repetition show that we can open history to change if we open ourselves to meaning. In our everyday lives, we keep watching the same videos on the news or YouTube over and over again until they lose their meaning. Films, on the other hand, can include the readings of their own histories as they unfold and interweave them into the narrative. This mashup of different timelines helps to bring the past back to life in the present in new ways. The best example for this method is Alain Resnais's film, You Ain't Seen Nothin Yet. This is one of his last films, and it's very different from one of his first films, which reframes the world after World War II as an impossible place that does not afford new possibilities, but only reminders of the horror that just took place in it. In this film, real-life actors come together under the same roof and attempt to close gaps in their on and off stage lives. And as the title suggests, seeing involves the anticipation for a surprise and a new possibility at any moment, since the characters, are dependent on one another's speech, gestures, and movements, and as such, they keep discovering new truths or lies as they go along. Rather than taking a risk of losing yourself or your muse by looking back, as happened in the story of Orpheus and Eurydice, whom the film is based on, by being together with others and sharing identities with them, the seduction to become different is intensified. Rather than trying to match an ideal, fantasy, fiction with reality, cry for the failure of this undertaking, as in Melancholia, or only celebrating fiction, chance, possibility, without actual change. The film affords the actors, to discover new truths, or tell new lies about themselves, others, their world, and love, since they constantly face the death of their characters. This is a good way to tell stories in our hyper-recorded world, in which the temporal structure of our experience is condensed and leads to nowhere in particular. Our past is fast forgotten, the future comes too soon, and the now just keeps trailing behind us. We have no time to repeat our past in a different way in order to overcome our neurosis and have a future of our own. The future today is bursting like lava from sleepy volcanoes, rather than coming towards us. What can cinema and politics look like in contemporary life? Resnais invites us to imagine this together with his actors and characters.